Hello, this is episode 2 of Type 1 Talk. Type 1 Talk is a resource that discusses major points of what it is like to live with type 1 diabetes. And today we will be talking about coping and adjusting to living with type 1 diabetes. Do you want to get started?
You can go first.
Okay, when I first got diagnosed with type 1, I remember I didn't understand what was happening. Understand that it was like permanent or that it was like not gonna go away. It was and I remember at the time I was really into like superhero comics. So I was 6 years old, so I thought I had gotten like superpowers. I was wrong, obviously. And my concept of sickness at the time was, taking medicine and getting better. And, I obviously never got better. And it wasn't until a few months in where I realized it wasn't going away. I got tired of doing the shots and I told my mom, I'm better now. I don't need the medicine. She's like, well, you can't stop taking it. You need the medicine. And it was an adjustment. I remember that. Do you remember your initial feelings towards getting diagnosed?
Yeah, because I was in the honeymoon phase, it was a lot easier for me to process everything. Like, we were able to take it in steps. So, like, okay, got finger sticking down, eventually got put on long acting insulin. Okay, we got that done. That's it. Doing that every day. Later gets put on Dexcom, no more finger sticking. And eventually got to the point where I need insulin like every day. So I'm like freaking out that day. That was the day I realized that when I first had to do insulin to get my blood sugar down for fast acting insulin, that was the first day where I realized, like, hey, I have anxiety over this because my blood sugar. And that was like, I guess, like, that should have been like the first sign of everything. But they got put on Omnipod. I'm like, everything's fine, everything's fine. And then that was it around my first year of being diagnosed. And getting closer to around my third year, I've noticed that I kept getting anxious every single time anything sounded off. Like, I'd be watching a YouTube video and the person there might have like an alarm going off or some sort. And I'm like freaking out, like, gosh, my blood sugar, gosh, my blood sugar. And that just made me so anxious. And some other things happened. So I ended up going to a therapist and she's like, yeah, you have anxiety over this. And so I'm like, oh, but most of my anxiety does stem from my blood sugar and just everything really in regards to diabetes itself. And I do get depressed sometimes, which we were able to figure out that. But I went to the therapist for a good solid 3 months just over diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think people talk about it as itself, but I don't think people talk about it enough, the toll it takes on you mentally.
Yeah. Like being a pancreas 24 hours a day, every single day,
Yeah.
no break.
And even if you do have a closed loop system between your CGM and your insulin pump, you still have to monitor that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just crazy. And of course, the stigma around diabetes, like, oh, you get it because you eat too much McDonald's or what you eat too much sugar, that also plays a role in itself. And that I remember when I got that, I never really had fast food. I never had McDonald's. I rarely even ate it. But when people brought that up, it started like fucking me like I got this because I ate too much McDonald's, even though I had it like 3 times before. I never ate it. I never ate fast food. But like that just made me like so depressed. Like, hey, I could have solved this, even though I knew that like you get this because of a mutation in your gene.
It has nothing to do with like
Yeah.
your
Or you
diet
get it.
or lifestyle.
Yeah. And especially for type 1, I know it's for type 2, you can get it through a couple different things. But it's like for type 1, I knew I have type 1. Why am I doubting these things the doctor said? And it's because of my peers.
Mm-hmm.
They keep saying things like that. And that's where people really need to learn. Like they need to teach more about these things. And it shouldn't just fall on us having to do that because that's going to take on a toll on us more mentally and even physically too. Yeah.
Yeah. I hate when like in articles or in like media, when they talk about diabetes, they never like make the distinction that it's type 2 or type 1 diabetes. They just lump them
Oh
both
yeah.
together. And most of the time they're talking about type 2. And
Oh,
that's just something I don't like.
oh
It's
yeah.
really annoying.
I remember I was doing a school project. I'm like, we're having like a smoking unit in health, and they say you can get diabetes from smoking. Some girl turned to me and said, "You smoke?" Because she knew I had type 1 diabetes. I'm like, no, they are referring to type 2, not type 1. So then we had to go out and present things that we did after we got topic. So I did it. It worsens you can worsen your A1C if you have type 1 diabetes, but you
Mhm.
can only get type 2 diabetes from smoking. So like, and then people learned, and I don't even think that they really caught on to that very well. They grasped that idea.
Yeah. I get really defensive when people don't make that distinction, or, will try to give me advice about how to get rid of type 1.
Oh yeah. And then I'll be like asserting them like in like very forceful voice. I'm like, I'm done with this. I've told you this before. And they're like, you're an aggressive female. Are you on your period? And I'm like,
You're just tired.
just silence and shock. Like there is no way to really comprehend that. You're just like, you ignorant buffoon.
I think people need to stop trying to like give advice or have an opinion about a topic they know nothing about.
Yeah. Like if their cousin or their sibling has, you can say, oh, my grandma does this or this or this. Like I remember I told one of my friends that I knew since 5th grade when I was diagnosed, and he's like, oh, my grandma has that too. He didn't try to offer any advice because he knows nothing about it other than his grandma has it,
Yeah.
other than his mom has it, and his mom has type 2, but he just said, oh yeah, my mom has something similar, I don't know what type she is. He doesn't know, but he's
Mhm.
not offering advice because he knows there are 2 different types. He doesn't know what type his mom has. And even though like I knew my uncle had it, I knew he didn't get it from eating too much junk food. But even then, people were like always saying that. Like I knew enough as it was, so I knew you couldn't get it from eating too much McDonald's when I wasn't even diagnosed yet.
Mhm.
But it's like I even knew that. It should be a little more common sense. You can't get that. But I get like people just have their ideas that they get from who knows where. And us as a community, we're fighting so hard to destigmatize it. And then McDonald's goes and put its ad on there or something about like, oh, this burger can't give you diabetes. It's like, but you're kind of adding to it the stigma. You're not trying to help us destigmatize type 1 diabetes or diabetes in general.
Yeah. And even type 2 diabetes, it's not always like you're overweight. I feel like
Yeah,
that's a big stigma about it too.
you can
Sometimes you
get
can
it
just have,
from genetics or a gene
yeah.
mutation. And like even like with research, it is coming a long way to show that.
Mhm. I mean, you
Um,
can increase your risk by being overweight, but that's not
mhm.
necessarily the cause of type 2
Oh,
diabetes.
yeah, for sure. And I remember I'm sure going on my phone here, I saw this post that says, someone on Twitter posted, remember when Nick Jonas told everyone he had diabetes and we all thought he was gonna die? And it's like the odds of that happening are very rare. But if you don't have medication, then like, if you don't have insulin or access to insulin, that increases your chance.
Mhm.
Then
Yeah.
a reply to this was, he will die if he doesn't have access to insulin for 48 hours. It happens to Americans all the time. But I just checked and saw that his net worth is about like 50 million, which is equivalent to 4,629 years worth of insulin at $300 per vial 3 times a month. So he should be okay.
Yeah.
And we're not even scratching the surface of the anxiety people must feel if they can't afford insulin.
Yeah. I think I read articles all the time about people like rationing insulin, and because of that, they're
Yeah.
really sick.
And that is so dangerous in itself. And they're obviously freaking out. They're dealing with a lot. They're trying to pay for bills for children if they have children. They're trying to pay for food, and they're probably trying to pay for mortgage. And then on top of that, it costs like $6, maybe $8 to make, but we're selling it at a prop for $100. That is a huge profit you're making out of a population that needs this medication to live. I mean, yes, we did cap it to like $100 a month.
For something that their bodies make for free.
Oh yeah, like
my-
in Canada, by the time it was like this was when insulin was around like $300. In Canada, the cost of 1 month of insulin in the US for the same amount of money, you can get like 3 to 6 months of insulin and still not even reach where the US price is.
Yeah.
And I mean, other countries, they are capping insulin, they're lowering it. I know France, free healthcare, if you're going to have diabetes anywhere, you would probably want to have it in France.
Mhm.
Just because how cheap it is, which is, I think that shows in itself that America has a long way to go to help with diabetes in general, whether it's mental health, affordability, and of course, affordability of insulin affects mental health too. And I don't think people really think of that all the time.
Healthcare in general in the US is extremely expensive. So
Yeah,
I think the whole system needs to be evaluated.
a lot needs to be done, but I think the best thing is like bring awareness, you teach people, and that's the only way you can get better, even though you might be sacrificing your own mental health for that.
Yeah. I feel like it's also hard because you never get a break. You always have type 1 and you're always constantly having this worry about, because there's consequences if you don't control your blood sugars or if you know, then it's just so stressful sometimes.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first time you had a low blood sugar?
That I remember, yes. My blood sugar, when I was first diagnosed, it was like hanging around between like 80s and 90s. Like the lowest I went at that time was like 70. But my lowest blood sugar was probably like 43. It never went lower beyond that. And even then, when it went to 43, I was freaking out.
You've always had a Dexcom though, right?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah. From May to November of that first year I was diagnosed, that was the only month I did not have it.
Mhm.
But ever since November forward, I have had it.
Okay.
I think it was right after, like the day after Thanksgiving that
Yeah.
year, which is just wow.
My lowest blood sugar was 27, but I didn't get a Dexcom until 6th grade. So I'd already had type 1 for about 6 years and I was doing finger sticks up until then. So
That must have hurt.
yeah, I had those little like marks on your fingers, the like constellation marks.
Oh yeah.
I don't have them now because I never do finger sticks now. But yeah, and it was very, like, I don't know how I did it without the Dexcom. It was very stressful and I had a lot less control.
Yeah. Well, here's to the G7 coming out soon.
Yeah. Do you know when it's coming out?
I'll have to ask my endocrinologist. I believe he said around the second quarter of this year,
Yeah.
or it could have been the third quarter. It should be. Last time we asked him, he said it would be coming out around like this year.
Dexcom G7.
Or that I could also be talking about the Horizon, the Omnipod and Dexcom
Yeah, I
system.
think I heard that was coming out this year.
Yeah.
Okay. The Dexcom G7 is going to be 60% smaller. It's going to be a circle.
Yeah, it's nearly the size of a quarter and like very thin too. We saw pictures of it and my endocrinologist is literally hyping us up for it, which is like, you're hyping us up over a little small medical device. I don't like, I'm really excited for that, but like I think that's sad that I'm getting so excited for it. I'm like, transmitter's supposed to be like built in there or something. so small. You only have to change it after like it's like a 30-minute warming up period between when you change it and when it's active. And it's like it can last 14 days or something like that. Like I'm being hyped up for it. I'm like, I think it's sad that I'm getting that hyped up for a little small medical device. That's what
Yeah.
diabetes technology has come to, getting hyped up over little small devices.
Yeah, the jump from the G5 to the G6 and having to do no finger sticks a day was like that. I was really excited about that.
Yeah, I was never on the G5. I was like on the G6 right away because like around the release date.
Mhm.
So I met someone who was still using the G5, but I know you had to insert it. It wasn't like a little device where you just press the button. You had to go like push
Down,
it,
and then you had to
pull
pull it
up
out.
to release it, like to insert it, then release it. I'm like,
That was
wow.
much more painful.
And like it came in a little bag too. So like the adhesive was like folded, moved weirdly all over the place. And it's like, what?
It was bigger. It was 7 days, and you had to do finger sticks still twice a day.
Yeah, and it was like kind of like chunky. Now this one's just like a little bit longer and slimmer.
Yeah.
And the new one to me is such like a little tiny dot. And
Yeah.
it's coming a long way, but I'm still kind of sad at myself for being like crazy, like excited for it.
But it does have like a lot of impact on like the convenience of type 1 in our lives and stuff. So
the Dexcom G7 CGM system has secured a CE mark and approval from people with diabetes in Europe, so it must be like released or something.
yeah.
FDA approved it, so it should be coming out soon.
Yeah, and you can have up to 10 followers now with the new one. And you can customize the app. That'll be fun.
I'm looking up the release date. First quarter of 2022. We are past the first quarter.
I think that might have been Europe. Stuff gets like approved in Europe faster than it does in the US.
Oh yeah. I heard that they're trying to approve like an app for your Apple Watch that can check it. I think they could just be referring to the Dexcom app on the watch when they say that.
I know they have an app now on the Apple Watch, but
And then I heard somewhere that someone checks their blood sugar with a contact lens. I don't understand that.
I've heard research about that since I was like diagnosed, but I'm not sure like that they ever accomplished that or that it ever got approved or whatever.
Like my grandma was saying the other day, like a race car driver had that. I'm like, if they had that technology, sign me up. I don't know how accurate that would be, but it was accurate.
I mean,
hello, sign me up, please.
Although the only thing is, like, when you're not wearing a contact lens, though.
Oh yeah.
Because I don't sleep with mine on.
And so. How would you? Yeah, you're not supposed to sleep with contacts in. That's where the watch one comes in, or something like that.
Yeah. Or did you ever see not the Dexcom, the like meter where you like plug it into the bottom of your phone and you like check it with the app? So you like, it was like, it worked kind of similarly to a Dexcom where you could like share it and stuff, I think, but you like plugged it into the bottom, like the little meter, and then it would like store it on your phone and you had like a Lancet and everything, but it was like a meter.
I've heard of it. I never actually seen it.
Mm-hmm.
They actually like it's available to like buy, or were they just talking about it?
No, I think it was like available to buy. What is it called?
Oh, I not heard of this. Probably not really like seen the actual device.
Yeah, I think there's images online.
Yeah, so it is available to buy in Europe right now. Some guy has it in like April or something.
Well,
It's supposed to be a little tiny dot.
yeah, it's gonna be so strange. But I think, I don't
Yeah.
know. I think the circle will look better.
Like the comparison, man. Like, what? It's
It's half the size, and it's supposed to be flatter too.
like a quarter almost.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. Yeah, it's already launched in Europe.
Yeah. Do you use a pump?
Yeah.
Okay. Which pump do you use?
I use the Omnipod. I forgot the exact actual name for it, but it's like the one with the screen instead of the one with the buttons.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot the name of it. I don't know why.
And it has
probably
no tubes and stuff, right?
yeah, where you just like put it in where it's wireless. I chose wireless first of all because I did so many sports at that time when I was diagnosed, when I got it. And also I didn't want it to snag on anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, like, let's say if I were to do whatever sport, I would have to really unplug it. And I even know that my blood sugar would probably be going high
Yeah.
if I it. Like, I just have it, it's Bluetooth, it's wireless. I'll have to wait for it to connect. It's fine. I have found it that it is a bit easier to get it caught on things, to start like ripping it off. But overall, besides that, like, that barely ever happens. So I find it better for
And
me.
does it like connect with your Dexcom?
Not yet. That's when the Horizon comes into play. They already started releasing it. I don't know exactly who, but they have started to release it. Yeah, I have the Omnipod Dash. That's the name of it.
Okay. I know the T-Slim like connects with the
Yeah, I know that's what Omnipod is doing right now with Dexcom via the Horizon system. I don't know why I'm like, I don't know that I haven't gotten it yet. I'm like, you're already rolling this out. Insurance needs to approve it. That's all. Insurance work faster.
yeah. I don't know. I've always like since I was diagnosed, I've been doing injections. So I've 10 years of injections. I've never had a pump.
Yikes.
I don't know. I already wear a Dexcom, so I'm not sure I'd want to wear another thing, but I don't know.
You really feel it at the
Yeah.
much. I know the first couple of times I did feel it if I get stuck right on the nerve, but over time you kind of learn to know exactly like where your nerves are and how close to the skin it is when you like function it. Because when you get it right on the nerve, it will hurt. You'll probably bleed. But if you get it like anywhere else, like on like good fatty parts of your body, you won't feel it at all. I would personally say that the Dexcom hurt more for me in the beginning than the Omnipod did.
That's interesting. I remember the Dexcom hurting a lot when I first got it.
Yeah. I know there are like sample packages for the Omnipod, like if you want to try to wear one. I know it doesn't actually go into your skin, but you get the feeling of wearing one. I don't know. But the only bad thing with the Omnipod is, though, that I would say, is depending on what kind of clothes you wear, you will see the indent of it.
But that's the same with the Dexcom.
Yeah. At least the Dexcom's a little bit more slimmer.
Yes,
But
it is.
I mean, it happens. You have to sacrifice it. It's okay.
Well, a lot of times I just wear like my Dexcom on my arm and stuff, so people see it anyways.
Yeah.
Do you, when you meet them, do you tell people you have diabetes or like in school or whatever, or do you just, that's not the first thing, not the first thing, but that just, you don't like want to mention it?
If it comes up in conversation for some sort, it does. If someone asks, like most people, most of the time will just see the bracelet. So we'll just like look at it, they're like, oh, you have type 2 diabetes? Oh, I have grandma or something that's diabetes.
Mhm.
Obviously, probably referring to type 2, but you could also be referring to type 1. Who knows? Most of the teachers know because at my school they do a very good job of letting all the teachers that that you're gonna have know that you have it.
Yeah, that's the
They're
same.
all like crazy understanding. The only issue that you have is when you have a sub, or if like something like goes wrong, I have to go to the nurse. They're like, because I go to an all girls school, so they're like, oh, you need to go to the nurse. Okay, go ahead, go to the nurse. They don't really ask any questions, which is nice, but it's like occasionally you get a sub and they're like, are you good? I'm like, yeah, I just my Omnipod aired out. I need to go change it. And I oh, okay, go.
Yeah. Sometimes
They have to
when
see what's going on, but great.
yeah. Sometimes when my blood sugar's low, I'm like allowed to like eat or like dose in class. Like I have the like accommodations to do that. So I'll just like start eating candy in class. And sometimes the teachers or the sub will be like, you know, you can't eat in class. Like I was like, but I have a medical reason. It's practically medicine for me.
Yeah. And my teachers are all pretty good about it. There's quite a lot of kids with diabetes at my school. Like I just like see someone wearing, oh, you have an Omnipod in your arm. Cool. Oh, you have an Omnipod on your leg. Cool. Because we have to wear uniforms, so you can easily like, see if people are wearing like them on like their lower legs. Like, oh, you're wearing one on your leg. Cool. Or when we have dress down days, you like obviously people are trying to wear shorts or something. So like you can just like see everyone have like the Dexcom or Omnipod, which is like pretty cool. Obviously, you don't go up to them and say, "Hey, I have one too." But it's like, okay, cool, you have one, and I think that just like shows like, okay, I'm not the only one here that has it.
Yeah.
Which surprisingly, in my biology class, we were doing a little thing with something with gene mutations or something, and eventually got to the line. Or I forgot exactly what unit we were on, but it's like something with like respiratory, something with blood sugar, things like that. And out of all of the kids my biology teacher had, she had the 2 type 1 diabetics in that exact same class period.
Mhm.
So we did the portion with blood sugar. I detailed it like to the prim. And the other type 1 diabetic, she's like, I'm gonna do the basics. I detailed it.
Yeah.
My biology teacher was like, I think she was proud. I don't know. I don't know what grade the other person got, but I finished it in like 5 minutes with a bunch of details. Um, I I hope she was proud because I put so much effort into it. I'm like recalling all of my memories from when I was diagnosed, all the terminology, and I did it. I don't know. I got an A. I got an A plus, so I was proud on that. One of the best grades in biology I got the year because that teacher, she was strict. She was
Yeah.
really strict when it came to grading and everything. But
Whenever
yikes.
diabetes comes up, you know it's gonna be an easy
Yeah,
A.
you know you're gonna ace it. And if you fail, that is concerning. That is concerning. If you have a medical condition and you fail at that thing that you're writing about, if you're writing about it, that is kind of concerning.
Yeah.
But leave it to the type 1 diabetes children to actually know what's going on.
I mean, you have to, you know?
Yeah. And then just expect everyone else to just ask them, like, hey, what did you get for this answer? Cool. And you'll tell them some random answer and like, I believe this. I believe you. I'm not gonna go research anything else.
Yeah.
Which I mean, it's like you're trying to cheat off of us because of a disease and diagnosis that we don't want, but we have. You
Yeah.
can no, we can cheat off our own knowledge. You can cheat off of Google or something. But I feel like people are just like pretty chill about it. Like
Yeah.
I
There's always the
drink
occasional person who isn't, but more or less people don't really care.
all of my teachers are pretty cool about it. I mean, I've had glucose abs juice. No one really questioned it. Even people in the class questioned it. So it was fine. Like even at the beginning of the year, not a lot of people knew I had type 1 diabetes, which is pretty surprising. Like I came and do um algebra one time after lunch just because my blood sugar went low like 3 times, and everyone was just chill about it. Everyone was fine. No one really questioned it, which is like I was gone for more than half the class period. What do you think happened? Like, do you care? Are you concerned, or do you just live in your own little bubble? Or no? Okay. No one really like questions it, which is like kind of nice because you don't have to deal with a bunch of questions. But at the same time, it's like, are you concerned for me?
Yeah. I feel like the size of the school also depends on like the concern level. Like I've gone to like really small schools and I've gone to like a really big school. And at the small school, everyone cares more than the bigger school. People just are like, okay, whatever.
At my middle school, which was pretty big, people questioned like if I was eating in class sometimes, depending on what class it was too though.
Mhm.
Some people questioned it, some people didn't. But I've noticed at my high school now, it's like 1,000 students or so. No one cares.
Mhm.
Maybe because we're at a private school, people will do the most random things possible or whatever, but like no one seems to really question it. Maybe it's because, we're older, we're in high school, people are like, it's none of my business. But even some of my friends, like they didn't know what I thought. I'm like, how I feel like I've mentioned it so about like 3 times to you, but you don't know.
Mhm.
Like, huh. But I feel like people are just like they're more concerned with themselves, getting good grades, focusing on their schoolwork. And if it comes up, it comes up, but they don't really like prone to ask like little kids. They're more prone to ask, which is obviously they're curious, they ask a lot of questions, but once you hit a certain age or something, people just don't really ask questions unless you bring it up or you mention something that can relate to it, then they'll ask. But so I feel like that's nice. Like they don't want to be like invading your privacy or anything.
It's also like as you get older, it also like I feel like people are also like not quick to forget it, but it's not like the first thing they associate with you too.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that also probably has to deal with how well they know you too.
Mhm.
Like for all you know, you could have type 1 diabetes, but they'll still refer to you as that girl from math class or whatever.
Yeah.
So like that's pretty nice.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Type 1 Talk. Next week, we will be discussing school and sports with type 1 diabetes.